Welcome back to the Analyst Desk, everybody. Told you we'd be back. Hopping back in here with Beatdown and Dylan once again. In Beatdown, I know you were chomping at the bit to talk about this. We got to talk about Clyde on set because that dude was smurfing that game, regardless of the outcome of the match.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, TBA made a handful of mistakes in that early game that were well punished by Winthrop. But I think a lot of those plays were just set up from Clyde and his activity. We talked about it in the pregame, how if he has the opportunity to roam, if he can get a champ that can impact other lanes, he's going to pick it up and utilize it. We saw him make that roam up to the top side jungle early on to actually punish Goo's roam there on the Kindred, which is already kind of the start of what started to give Winthrop this early game lead that they developed for themselves. But then later on, the initial point I brought up in the draft ended up coming true. Set having to walk into TBA's composition as they start scaling is super unfortunate because he has to get into melee range. Sure, he gets a face breaker and then he gets deleted. Sometimes he didn't even get to press W. And if we saw a more durable and a more engaged from range champion like Nautilus, or like Will even said Blitzcrank, which I think is a great shout, I think Winthrop would have more agency in this mid to late game. Imagine plucking actually, you know what? I might even say I like Blitzcrank more. Imagine plucking Sean out of that Lamb's breast pit. Game changer.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been huge, and I think now as we start thinking about what's coming, right? So we saw TBA throughout the mid and late game; they're just having an absolutely dominant performance. They were able to unlock Sean on this Aphelios in a way that ultimately dominates the game. In a way, as you put to beat down, as we were talking, in the way a hyper carry mobilized can do. So I turn to you first, Dylan. What does Winthrop have to do to actually put this one away? Is it just kind of deciding, look, we're going to try to eliminate Sean and somehow, maybe leaving yourself vulnerable to Young, who also had a Smurf damage game, or where's your head at if you're Winthrop now?
I think Winthrop is probably going to focus less on their draft and focus more on just their individual mistakes that they made. I think that going into the mid game, they were pretty comfortable with where they were at, right? They were down 2 dragons, one of them very questionable to give over, right? It was basically Kindred just sneaking it underneath their nose. But I think outside of those dragons, I mean, we saw them get a gold lead. We saw them use Herald to kind of crack open the map. They got the first towers down. I don't think draft is what they're going to take away from this one. I think maybe the set changes. I don't think the ADC pick is going to change because knowing these players, they're definitely going into that VOD review thinking, what the hell were we doing in that mid game? How did Aphelios get to this point? Because before that, they did a pretty good job of shutting him down, right? I mean, they got kills on him in the lane phase. I think it was 1 and 3 at one point. And he just came online because he picked up kills in the mid game. So I think if they clean up their gameplay, if they focus on, keeping things, nice and neat, making sure that their execution is on point, they're definitely poised to take this game too, and played out a lot closer in the early mid game than I thought it would.
See, the thing is, though, although I think I can agree with you that that's probably where their minds are going to go here, Dylan, but I think they should look to their draft just a little bit here. Although execution was definitely a problem in that mid game, I really think a different support in this scenario already makes this game so much easier for Winthrop. And let's be real, going into game 2, if this is how TBA are going to play, in the early game rather, then there is still a chance for Winthrop to pick up an early lead and actually snowball that into a match win. Could end up tying the series here. But that's why I think they should still lean towards looking back at the draft, tweak a couple of things. Even though I don't necessarily love the Jhin here, if you just swap out Clyde for Not or Blitzcrank, I think this is infinitely better. I think that match past 15, 20 minutes is much closer. Because let's be real, after 20 minutes, it was TBA's game. It was done. No one could touch Sean. He was unstoppable.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And if I could, just to go back to like some of the compositional things too, just before we hop over. It's like I wanted something different than Scion, and I think even on the the casters talked about like, yeah, it is an engaged tool, but it's like, but you never really had anything. Once Clyde couldn't touch this Aphelios anymore, like he would literally run at him, showstopper him, and nothing would happen.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, okay, he's online. Like there's just, you can't do jack about it now. Like it just felt like the team just never had that move into the mid game ultimately, that engage to like deal with Sean. And I don't. It's gonna be awfully hard to find a way to make it work, but they're gonna have to find a way to do it here. And so, we are gonna pass it back to the casters. Though we do have the pro draft links. The teams are ready to rock and roll, and our lovely casters are ready to bring you the draft, fellas.
Appreciate the insight here on the casting desk, where a whole lot breaking down. And in that last one, I think ultimately it kind of came down to what happened in that late game. The Renekton was not necessarily what propelled this TBA squad through the early game, but once you got to that late game, however you got there, it boded well for TBA. My name, again, Tanner Metro. I'm still with Chilling Walk. So we're still the Bomber Bros. I'm trying to coin that for us here. But Chilling Walk, how are you feeling about it? Now we get a little bit more time before jumping into this draft to talk about what we saw in that first game.
I want to just jump back on the analyst desk because they brought up a good amount of points. Let's swap out that set pick. Let's pick up like a hook champion that Clyde is for sure well known for, right? He is known for his Pike, his Thresh, his Blitzcrank, his Nautilus. He is really good at these hook supports, and along with that, he is really good with roaming. So if I'm Winthrop University, let's stick to that game plan. Let's make sure that, Clyde is able to move around the map. Let's make sure that Saskio can function by himself, because I don't know if you guys know this, Twitch chat, but Saskio played an AD carry and played Yuumi with his foot, guys. He got he climbed that solo queue ladder by himself. So, if Saskio can play bot lane by himself, I'm pretty sure he can play bot lane without Clyde being there, So hopefully Winthrop picks up their draft, but so far that early game definitely worked out well for them.
Yep, early game worked out well. We'll see if they can do it again here as we jump right on into the draft, and they're getting right back to it. But it's the same stuff across the board. This time, TBA will be sporting that blue jersey here on the blue side. And it's the 4 similar bands, and I don't know if we actually get anything different. And a point that you made up in the last game, or brought up in the last game, Lucian was left open for both picks and bans, and actually wasn't picked up.
That's the big surprising point, Tanner, that you brought up, because, we take a look at the match history. I remember I seen Docs at like 11-3. Of course, I definitely know Young plays that Lucian too. So for sure, surprising that these guys don't want to prioritize that at all. We do see a misban, so we're going to get some verification of what that ban will be here. As right now, still making sure what it is. And it is going to be an Ornn ban from TBA, a tank ban against Hey Bragi. You know what? This man is playing tanks all day, the entire time for Risen, outside of like one Aatrox game the past couple weeks here. So a solid ban if I'm TBA.
Yeah, and that was a very scary Aatrox game, talking about Hey Baragi there. So I wonder if that is something that they do try and take away, as we see the Lee Sin hover and a little bit of respect given over to Young mid. That Syndra just being a strong pick overall. They're clearly comfortable taking it blind. It's banned away, and now the Lee Sin is picked up. And Goo, unfortunately, didn't have not only the best early game, but not necessarily the best game in that last one. Now we get to see him on Lee Sin, possibly making some plays here.
All right, Goo. I know. I like flamed you a little bit here. You called that you're gonna stomp Doxy. You didn't. I think this Lee Sin pick is a little too early, my man. You might be trying to flex on him. I understand, but Lee Sin this early on is honestly not the pick to go to. Man, you have the Lilia. Nidalee's open for you. You could have picked that. You also could have taken the Graves, but instead you're locking the Lee Sin, one of the best champions at skill expression. Hopefully you can express that tonight, but honestly, going into Graves and Orianna probably is going to be the best, because no one right now is able to help you out. TBA, you're going to have to make sure that this Lee Sin, make sure Goo can get to that back line. This Senna, I don't think is going to be the right pick if I'm them.
Yeah, the Senna pick for me, okay. Ooh, there it is. It's the Aurelia, and I believe it can be assumed that it's going right into that mid lane, especially since the Orianna was locked in. So Winthrop try and go blind on this one, and TBA immediately answer back, and they might just slap a Karma on top, which Plux played that Karma beautifully in the last one.
Yeah, Plux is honestly a really good support that helps catalyze the rest of his team to play the way they want here, being the setter for a squad. But we got to rewind back, man. Tanner, you know how good Young's Irelia is?
It's incredible.
It's
I was
amazing
watching a
to
game
watch.
today.
Even though sometimes he has some misperformances, when this man pops off, he goes insane.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how TBA can play around it. And with Winthrop picking the Jhin here, this is a composition that I like to see, a composition that's made to kite back. But right now, still, Winthrop does not have the tools necessary to deal with the Irelia or the Lee Sin here. If Young manages to get a kill or two in the lane, and he manages to just blade dance all over him, he's going to be a very hard blade dancer to even pin down right now.
Yeah, and you talked about skill expression. Those two picks in the Lee Sin and the Irelia are just skyrocket through the roof. The Scion now taken away, so they are sending some towards that top lane, and that is where I think this Winthrop composition fell apart in game one. They didn't really have a whole lot to protect their team. Of course, Kenji playing a little too far ahead a couple of times, getting caught out, but if you don't have Heibaragi on a tank up in the top lane, something that he's comfortable on, what do you put him on here as 3 bans targeted up top?
Honestly, these are solid bans too. Darius, you know, people like to say Darius is a champion that moves forward. Honestly, if people are walking into Darius, that's Darius's free time here. And that's where you're banning away Darius. Because if the Irelia walks in, if Lee Sin walks in, you're walking into a Darius. Keep that in mind. So I definitely appreciate TBA's bans here. Winthrop still banning the Ashe and the Aphelios, and that's where the question mark comes in, because if I'm TBA and I see a Jhin here, I might as well just pick like a Draven or pick something else to go in. Ezreal, of course, is a pretty solid midfielder in the AD carry position, knowing that he can arcane shift in and can circumvent the issue of the Nautilus and, of course, you know, dodging in and out here. But right now, Winthrop only has the champion Nautilus to be that body against Lee Sin and Irelia. Hopefully TBA don't pick the Zoe. I expect something else to help you go in. Camille is gone away for a Cozy Shroud. Maybe we see a Shen. Maybe we see something else to help them dive in here. But instead, looks like it is going to be the Zoe. That's a big question mark here. I think Cozy Shroud's actually going to be taking the Irelia to the top lane.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen XT talk about this TBA team being that content team, and maybe they're just looking for some extra content, because it is a little sad to see that we don't get Young on that Irelia. Instead, it is going to go up to Cozy Shroud, which I don't think you can blame TBA as a whole. Cozy Shroud had arguably one of the strongest games we've seen, especially coming from behind from him as a top laner. And a Poppy comes through. This is a flex pick. You talked about it earlier in the season. We saw Winthrop play it just the other day, and now we get to see it again, and it hurts this TBA composition. Yeah,
now TBA kind of shooting themselves in the foot, picking the Ezreal and the Zoe together with the Karma means that they've actually changed their composition to an artillery style, looking to poke them down from a distance, looking to make sure that you whittle them down before the engage comes through. But with Winthrop picking the Poppy, you know, you can try and land all the poke that you want, but Winthrop is now able to just kind of move forward and, you know, bypass Lee Sin and Irelia. It's on TBA to look for these creative flanks, or if not that, make sure they get to the back line, because you cannot be walking straight through if a Poppy sitting on your back line here. So hopefully TBA can get that artillery in before the fight were to occur, because if they fight on an even term, 100% health on both sides, Lee Sin and Irelia is going to get melted and get stopped from Winthrop's composition.
Yeah, we're seeing it again in this TBA comp where they kind of shy away from having that set tank. It's a couple of squishy members and then a bruiser up top. Again, that is that question mark ping in this Zoe being picked up. And I feel like, I don't know if it's a blue side thing or maybe TBA just trying to be a little bit flashy, but this feels similar to what Winthrop did in their last composition. They picked a few picks that wanted to go one way, and then the rest of the picks didn't really back it up, and you don't have this a specific point A to point B approach. It's you're hoping that your A just carries through everything, which was Kenji on that Graves early, getting 3 kills, and unfortunately it started to fall apart into that late game. Now I feel TBA are kind of falling victim to that, and when I look at Winthrop's composition, they've got the champions now this time around to punish that. It's the shockwave from Orianna. It's the damage from Graves. We saw how strong Saskia was on the Jhin using those curtain calls. This is looking pretty scary, and we might see that Winthrop coming through that was able to upset that 4th seed earlier in the losers bracket show up here for game 2.
Hopefully they can. Again, this is still a testing roster, and in the early game of game one, it definitely worked out well for them. Unfortunately, just getting caught up by that flank here, and as long as they shore up those flanks from game one, it should work out well going into that point. But right now, if I'm looking at TBA, we have to make sure that artillery lands. If Zoe doesn't, if Young, of course, is a really good Zoe player, but if he doesn't manage to land those bubbles, doesn't manage to land those paddle stars, and if Sean doesn't manage to land those mystic shots, it might be tough because, we look at Nautilus. If Young just warps in, that Nautilus ultimate's coming right back onto you, and then they can look for an engage, especially with Jin as a long range snare and a CC tool. So it's definitely going to be a higher execution composition for TBA. A lot of skill expression on 4 out of the 5 champions. So TBA, if you guys can flex, I'm down for it.
Yeah, this is the content team, the team for content. They're looking for not only wins, but flashy wins as a whole here. Now we will finally get to see it. It does seem like another vision angle for TBA. They want to play outside of vision. They want to try and cut that vision off from Winthrop, and it worked in game number 1 as a whole. Now, coming into this one, we still have question marks. It's still TBA with the question marks. If you had to give predictions, or not even maybe a prediction, but the way you're kind of seeing this draft as a whole sway, how are you feeling about it?
In regards to just draft, nameplates off. Let's assume it's nameplates off, Tanner, okay?
Yeah.
If it is nameplates off here, I personally would actually give it to Winthrop because they have a good defensive line for the Graves, Oriana, and the Jin. But the TBA, of course, has a lot of that skill expression that can come through, a lot of that poke that can come through. So I think Winthrop just slightly favored. It's honestly a pretty 50-50 kind of composition, but like Winthrop, maybe just like 52, 53, 54, 55 because of how they can deal in a front-to-back teamfight composition when paired up close,
Yep, I could not agree more. We should see another back and forth, very close one. But you guys have gotten our thoughts. Now we are going to toss it back on over to Paul and the analyst desk to give us theirs.
Hey, thanks, Tanner. Appreciate it. Back with Dylan and Beatdown once again. And fellas, we were breaking down the draft, and we got a lot of nods over here for Walk's final point. Nameplates off. I mean, I'm entirely with them. I think, every day of the week and twice on Sundays, aka today, I'm taking Winthrop's draft. But Beatdown, you had some thoughts on this. You think, TBA though, given their skill set, this is still a very winnable draft for them and something that you really liked.
I agreed with you all the way up until really TBA's draft is definitely a bit of a concern for me. I mean, Lee Sin, Irelia, cool. You want to get super aggressive. You want to dive. I'm into that. And then you immediately pivot into Ezreal into Karma, then Ezreal, and then Zoe. So it's immediately about wanting to poke them from a distance. And at this point, I think it was Will who said it during the draft. The only way now TBA is going to find a successful fight is a lot of landed mystic shots, a lot of landed paddle stars. Poke needs to come through on Winthrop's composition before you can actually engage them. And Winthrop, R5ing Poppy, I love that. Lee Sin, Irelia, they can't really threaten the backline anymore in these team fights. Winthrop have a great front to back in this scenario. I like this draft so much more. TBA, because their players are very skilled, yeah, I'm not going to count them out. But if I'm looking at this draft, I think Winthrop have a much better chance here. There are lanes, their Graves can play through. When it comes to team fights, they have free engage. It's free real estate because of this Nautilus. As long as he lands a single dredge line, and let's be real, the hitbox is the entire map. So there's just so much going for Winthrop just looking up on these drafts.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, Dylan. So then, considering that, do you think this is a draft strong enough for Winthrop in a way that, because we saw ultimately the turn for TBA, right, was this turn behind this hyper carry that ultimately just put the game away, and he was able to point and click and ultimately end the game. But is this a comp for Winthrop that can kind of salvage things and help them maybe build off that early game success and actually carry it through a mid and late without getting obliterated and steamrolled?
Here's my worry. I think that Winthrop's team is definitely better in team fights. I think they're better late game, which is kind of the polar opposite of what we saw in last draft. I do think, though, that it's going to be a little bit hard for them to generate the same early leads that they found last game, because they don't have that Echo just shoving in mid waves over and over. That's going to be Zoe doing that this game. In terms of their Jin Nautilus, I mean, it's hard to get the shove into Ezreal Karma, right? I mean, Karma can contest the wave more than Nautilus can. Ezreal's always firing out those Mystic shots. Once he gets tier, he can start to contest the wave a little bit. As long as TBA can kind of use their priority to establish, vision control and to get pressure in the early game. Zoe's going to have prio on Orianna. Lee Sin, just more of an aggressive early jungler than Graves is. I think if they can use their early game advantages, it's going to be hard for Winthrop to get those same leads. So we're going to need to see a different style from them. We're going to need to see them, concede dragons. I know that they did that last game, but they traded them for Rift Heralds and Tower Plates. I don't know if they can do that this game. They're probably going to have to be the ones that are conceding tower plates and maybe even dragons early on, but they scale up to be a much stronger team fighting and just overall composition than TBA. So I think they're playing for 2 items. They're playing for maybe 20, 25 minutes, and then that's when they come online. That's when they want to fight. And I think if it reaches that point, it's Winthrop every day.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of to what you just said. The thing is, Winthrop won't be able to generate early or less likely to generate early leads based on this draft. But the thing is, they don't necessarily have to. The onus isn't on them. If they want to AFK handshake farm for 25 minutes, it is in their best interest to do so. It's the onus. The onus is going to be on TBA. They have to use what early game power they have. That Lee Sin, Goo, a champion he's very proficient on. He's going to have to find a lot of plays and build TBA that early lead because they're the ones who are going to need the gold lead, the early Drakes, the early Rift Heralds, so they can generate an advantage that Winthrop can't come back from.
Yep, and so we're going to certainly find out. TBA won game number 1. Can they repeat it here? We're kicking it back to the Rift with Tanner Metro and Chilling Walk.
And we are back for game number 2. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mayamo. And thank you, Beatdown, for getting us prepped for this one. This time around, up 1 game. TBA feeling a little saucy. All 5 members stacked on the bottom side. And as you heard, I'm still Tanner Metro. I'm still joined by Chilling Walk. And this is going to be an interesting one. We heard the analysts talking about Winthrop having some good team fighting, but not necessarily going to be able to find those early leads. And TBA looking to make sure we stick to that storyline here.
Yeah, right now TBA going for a little cheeky little play here, but I wrote down a Twitch chat, man. TBA is team skill expression. So if you are an Aurelia 1 trick, if you are a Lee Sin 1 trick, watch these 2 because they're going to be looking to start a fight right now.
Yep, just like that, the damage is there. It's first blood for Goo getting on top early in this one. And Saskio should be able to get away, but what a start here by TBA.
This also means that Goo will be able to take this blue buff away from Sir Kenji. It also means that vertical jungling is now forced here, so it means that you're able to play freely on the bottom side. Saskio and Clyde are unable to look for any sort of aggression onto Sean and Plux, which is honestly really good. It just means they are able to take free turret plates by themselves. So we'll have to see what Sir Kenji can do to answer that, or see if Saskio and Clyde can actually play through the 2 versus 3.
Yeah, and that's a good start for Goo. As you pointed out, that vertical jungling is picking up here. We've got Kenji headed on over to that blue buff, but Goo didn't necessarily live up to his word, like he said in the chat early in this one. Now he's got a better opportunity. He's got 1 kill early, some gold in his pocket. We might see Goo actually run over Doxa here in this game number 2. He's only got a couple more games to do it, or maybe only 1 if he is able to get it done.
Yeah, however, I'm just waiting to see what happens. Actually, looks like in mid lane, looks like Doxa actually lost his flash on a level 2 gank here, so good little victory on his end. But going into the Sir Kenji in the past, right? Because we did talk a lot about Goom, and you know what? You might as well just stay in the lane because once you lose that flash, you might as well just return back in, man.
Yeah, there's just nothing you could do there. That's unfortunate. Those are the skill shots that needed to land, just like you said, and TBA, they make it look clean. Now the teleport is going to come through, and Goo's going to have to get away from this one low on HP. Young is there and has that sleepy trouble bubble available, but not going to need it as Kenji will head back to the jungle. And Goo, he's low HP, but he's going to do some counter jungling.
Yeah, the skill expression is now back up more 2-0 on Goo. They first picked it. I respect it. It's definitely working out right now. But we have seen a flip on both these junglers' side, which means that Now Sean and Plux have to play a little bit safer, not take any hooks to the face. On the top side, though, Goo can't really do anything against Haberagi as the Steadfast Presence stops also a dash. It's kind of a dumb ability, especially when you're trying to be mobile and try to be more of these skill-expressive champions, since that is titled ability. But you know what? Let's return back to the mid lane because another gank is happening, a 2-on-2 as well. TPs are coming in.
Yeah, TP's coming down as well. Young taking a little bit of damage here from the Orianna. Goo's going to toss that Sonic Wave back. Haberagi just trying to get right into the fight, and Young might not have a way out. The safeguard is there, but so is the end of the line. That's going to be the end of the line for your Zoe, as on the bottom side, a kill will come through. It's a shutdown and a double kill for Kenji. It's 3 kills across the board, and a gold lead still for TBA.
Yeah, unfortunately, the punish coming in from Sir Kenji on the bottom side, and that's where both junglers usually don't want to interact in mid lane, because if a gank comes through, then the other jungler can just pop right up, and that's what happens. You have to be very mindful, but now, you know, Sir Kenji, he wants to try and move around the map and get these ganks like what happened in game 1, and they'll be able to do it if Cozy Shroud will just get away.
Cozy Shroud still alive some way, somehow. He's got the minions. He's burning down. It's the red buff, and one more auto will do it. The aggression is punished, but that was almost the prettiest play I've seen in 2020.
Yeah, I love the little mini game that you have to do when you're playing against Graves. If you have minions there, you have to just kind of make sure that his shotgun pellets are actually hitting those minions instead of himself. No wall bangs compared to Valorant, but it looks like he wants to try and find a punish on Haberagi. Unfortunately, missing the Sonic Wave, so actually looks like they want to turn around. Backup's coming in, but still leaving away. 2-1 right now, but Sir Kenji, same thing with game 1, man. Starting off with a 3-out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like you said, no wallbangs coming through. And if you're Lee Sin and you miss that first Q, there's no combo to follow up, right? You don't get those neutral airs or nothing to make a flashy play on the back end. It does result in some plates, but now the big thing I'm looking at is Kenji once again being this carry for his team. 300 gold on his head, and we saw this go south last game. It could really, I don't know how well this bodes for this Winthrop roster right now.
You know, they still have a pretty solid chance of coming in. It's only 3-3 right now. Of course, Sir Kenji is the one who is still being the one with all the gold. It is a little worrisome that their mid and the bottom lane from Winthrop are the ones who have taken those deaths. So hopefully they can come back. It's a good thing that those champions don't really need a lot of gold, but Clyde, this is the roaming champion that he's going to be going for. Young, let's see if he can get out of here.
And it's the same kind of mini game with the Nautilus. You just stay with the minions so he can't hook you. Young is able to do that, and it's not only skill expression, but it's the multitasking coming out from the TBA squad thus far. And Clyde's still the first to roam. It was answered by Plux, and nothing really came out of it, but we see how proactive Clyde can be. And now's the time to make a play, right? That dragon spawning. Somebody has to go for something. As that crab taken on the top side, Clyde is not actually going to get rooted, and he'll shield it up with the Titan's Wrath. So all quiet on the western front for now. I'm assuming dragon is where we see this next fight.
You really want to see the amount of gold that we have right now. Unfortunately, because it looks like we're actually unable to see here, so we'll get that fixed up in just a bit. As checking in with it looks like a hook is going to land, but Clyde, you cannot be walking up like that against Plux and Sean, man. They can burst you down like that.
You know, yesterday, or not yesterday, it feels like yesterday, last game, as hold it real quick, Shockwave comes through, pulls Young back, and the damage will follow through. This one gonna go the way of Doxa in that mid lane, and now top, it does not stop. It's all around the map, and Haberagi, once that shield goes down, I have a feeling you're probably going down as well. It's Koji Shroud to find another, and that Conqueror to make sure he stays topped off. But we were talking a little bit, we had some football references in that last game, and this game, they don't want football references. They don't want anything to deal with football because you have not been able to hand it off. The fight just keeps happening. Right as you try and get a word in, these guys go right back to it, scrapping, and this is exactly what we expected. I thought it'd be a little more back and forth. It is a 1,400 gold lead for TBA, and we heard the analysts break it down. It's not a strong early game for Winthrop. They need to get to this team fighting, and again, Dragon's still on the board.
Yeah, Tan, I think we have evolved from football and we've gone into the area of rugby. You know, it's very similar, but with TBA looking to just tackle everyone down, that's what the game is going to be. As Sean sitting at 3-0-1, 350 gold lead bounty under his table and sitting pretty with the Manamune. We talk a lot about how if Winthrop University were to get to the later stages of the game, they will do a lot better in team fights. But, you know, if you give more gold to the people who can poke you down, it's not a pretty sight. You're going to be losing so much HP from those mystic shots. And even though Young is sitting at 0-2 in the mid lane, those power swords from a distance will still do a lot of damage.
Yeah, scary place to be as Sleepy Trouble Puddle is down in the mid lane, and I thought we were going to see something evolve in the form of a gank. Unfortunately, not in the mid lane. Maybe up top, though. Senji roaming on up. It's the mini game to ensue. It's low health on Cozy Shroud, and it's so much damage. He's able to negate a little bit, dashing back and forth. The Conqueror is there, but the damage is not. And Cozy Shroud, the scoreline doesn't show it, but really showing up when it comes to the mechanics.
Yeah, I was actually so afraid of Sir Kenji right there. If he had that Vanguard's Edge, that actually would have been the kill, but with them taking the Infernal Drake and with Gu already on the bottom side, and also with bot laner sitting at 0-4 in total, this is honestly a pretty solid and pretty easy turret take here for themselves as we see everyone backing off. And Winthrop University might be coming down for the defense, but honestly, just let this turret fall and just start freezing your lanes and get more of that CS in as Young taking another shockwave to the face and has to flash out.
What an outplay. The Ignite is on. Could it be enough? It is Young taking it to Doxa. It's the mid laners. Now on the bottom side, though, Kenji will come down, find a kill on the enemy jungler. That's going to be a 3v2. We've seen Plux make it out alive before. Unfortunately, not going to do it this time around. And Heiberagi was there. Did get an assist as well. No teleport, so we'll recall. But Winthrop trying to claw their way back in.
Yeah, we're actually playing rugby now, Tanner. As, we see a fight mid and we see a fight bottom. Both these teams are just swinging back and forth. But, you know, Sir Kenji, 5-0-2. He had a good performance in the early game in game one. A lot of us were saying it's unlikely for Sir Kenji to have this kind of early game impact, but you know, I think all of us have eaten our words. 5-0-2 and also has the serrated dirt on hand, filling up the lethality against 5 squishy members. So Kenji will be able to do a lot of damage, but Holy Shroud, you're going to be taking this dive, but it's going to be a one-on-one. No, Hiberaki! You're actually skill checking them.
Again, Cozy Shroud. Now it's getting to the point where it doesn't matter how flashy it is. You're just going to die. You can no longer go for those plays. Just as we may see 3 players here in the mid lane. It is going to be answered by Kenji. They go right back onto the portal jump. Young gets taken down, but so does Doxa. The mid laners are dead. It's a 2v2. The junglers are low. The supports are here. We are completely matched in this fight. It's a 1-for-1 across the board. Winthrop on top, and they've reclaimed that gold lead.
You know, we talk a lot about Young and Doxa being like very much one-on-one champions, but for some reason, both these teams are putting so much attention that it's not even a one-on-one anymore. It's a mid-jungle and support matchup that's happening all over. However, Plux is over the wall, and Kenji can definitely come over if he wants to take it, but be very mindful of the HP that is denying any sort of lethality on his end. But still, these teams are going back and forth. It is 8-10. Kenji's sitting at 10 HP as a missing shot as the Arcane Barrage comes flying through, but right now, TBA, they have to find an answer against this jungler.
Yeah, Kenji showing us that last game, probably just a fluke now, 6-0-2. A lot of shutdown gold still on the head. TBA not up in gold any longer, still up in a dragon, so a bit of damage on top. The flash forward from Heiberagi. There's a beautiful stun. The heal comes through from the potion, but it might not be enough. Cozy Shroud this time around. It's taken 3 tries, but finally able to outplay and get away with just a sliver.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we just see a shutdown happen off screen. We have to see what happens because it looks like Gu managed to find Sir Kenji at his red buff and managed to take it away from himself. That's honestly a big shutdown going in here. This is Gu going to team map, but teleport's coming in on the bottom side.
Yeah, we dropped the rugby. We've just gone to bare knuckle brawling here as Cozy Shroud comes down, grabs a kill for himself. Plux is able to get away narrowly. Clyde, unfortunately, we cannot say the same. The deep water diver in Nautilus will go down, and it is 2 kills over to TBA.
Good stuff for Young to get himself back into this game here. He was struggling a little bit in the main lane because of so many people walking in here, denying him any sort of kills, but him picking himself up a kill, and along with that, Goo getting himself another kill is going to be really good here. And also, I'm surprised that Goo opted in for the Tiamat and the serrated Dirk here, which means that he is playing for content. You know, TBA, team skill expression, team content, that's all they're here for. Hopefully, Goo can start deleting some heads.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the Wild West. These guys have thrown the rule book out the window. They're just doing whatever they want. This is a wild game here. We saw in the last one, Will, it was, what, a kill every minute? It's just about doubled here. 21 kills, 14 minutes. Again, it's the Wild West. There's no rules. There's no laws. Both of these teams just duking it out back and forth. And again, this is these two teams, content machines is the best way to put it. I think you can give that title over to Winthrop as well.
You know what? Instead of giving it to Winthrop 2, Goo is definitely taking the cake. I mean, he picked up a dust blade in that inventory. Like Goo, I have you up against Mirage, and I appreciate having you up Mirage because you are definitely talented. I might eat my words because I think I haven't eaten my words, but that's what's going on. Pretty Shroud, he might not be wanting to take this fight, but he does get to Saskio.
Yeah, so much damage onto the enemy ADC, but he's going to get halted in his tracks. And it's Kenji with the damage in return. The dragon goes their way. Goo gets a kill, making it a second. And Saskio might not be able to get out. That fourth shot absolutely tickles the Lee Sin. And the blind monk gets it done for a triple kill.
All right, Caster Curse came in because Goo is already popping off. Already asleep onto Doxa, but Shockwave comes through. Actually gets out. He's still alive.
What a scrappy game. Plux is here on the top side and finds a kill onto Doxa, and Goo makes it out. What is going on, Will?
All right, Tanner. You know what? I said that I didn't want to eat my words, but Goo just gave me a bunch of slime back at me. It might just be a Goo diff right now. This is just between me and him at this point. He's just bypassing all of my logic as a commentator, but Sean, he's going to be surrounded by 3 members.
Yeah, he does make it over the wall, trying to take the fight right to Sir Kenji here, is able to dodge out on the True Shot Barrage, and his support has since came on over. Clyde will go down. Flux will be the benefactor of that kill. And Saskio, the flash forward to eat the root from the deadly flourish. And Jin has no way out, but the fight is not done yet. This is the best way to describe this game. It just keeps going. All rolls are thrown out the window, and you just yell from the rooftops here as Heibaragi is trying now to get away. He thought he had some help from Kenji, and now Kenji, he finds himself another fight. It's in the enemy jungle, but he's taking the fight to Goo. No, Goo's gonna grab the kill, and it's the Duskblade paying off with the Umbral Glaive on top and the emote on the way out.
I want to give you a heads up that the entire bottom side was basically a prolonged 2v4. It was a 2-on-2, 2-on-3 in the beginning, and then another person comes up, we take him out. Like, is this what TBA is, man? We did say it was skill expression. We did say that, Tanner. Like, Sean played really well in that fight here. I guess he wants to express on him some more because he's fighting in a one-on-one and he's winning.
Yep, the expressions don't stop as Goo is there as well. It's a godlike for the Lee Sin. It's a 6-0-3 Ezreal, and this is the epitome of when a fight breaks out, everybody is down. Somebody gets in trouble, they call their homies, and they show up, they drop what they're doing, and they just fight around the rift. It's the jungle, it's the river, it's in the lanes. It does not stop. Now, Doxa trying to finally get something back here for his team. The Drowsy comes through. The ultimate is all it takes. The Dragon's Rage from Goo, and that is the epitome of running it down on Goo, or on Doxa rather.
Yeah, Tanner, I'm pretty sure Doxa's robotic head literally flew off the screen with that kid. Like, god damn. He has everything else. Heibaragi, unfortunately, any winning matchup has to retreat here. Backup's already here, man. Winthrop University, I mean, they're routed at this point. I mean, just take a look at the gold lead right now. It is 39 to 29K. It is devastating right now, and everyone has been still expressing themselves out, but the number one person is going to be Goo. 10-3-1. He's found Clyde too, man. He doesn't have the ultimate, but he's already scared off the big subterranean diver, man.
Yeah, and what is a jungle item, right? Because Goo's
You don't
not
need it,
headed
bro.
that direction. Yeah,
You don't
exactly.
need it. If you are 10-3-1, you don't need a jungle item. That's what Goose telling us. So we're everyone in the least, all the Lee Sin one tricks. If you want to be a Lee Sin player, follow this one right here. Actually, follow this kid right here. He's a young lad. He's 15. Some young, for sure, a young kid, and he's making it work.
Yeah, and this is now the young buck showing the old dog new tricks. As unfortunately, Sean had a great game in the last one, will be shut down in this one, and nothing to really shake your head at. Still 7-1-3 on that Ezreal, and he actually finished an item, so he needed that recall anyways, right?
I mean, why not? First up, picks up a Blade the Rune King. Surprising that he does. Honestly, should have been a death stance as Saskia gets caught up by everyone else on TBA, but I think at this point, he's just going to be playing a game of cat and mouse as 4 members are going to try and collapse on a Young right now.
Yeah, and these fights, I mean, it's almost conversation at this point. Nothing surprising there. We've got a collapse up top, a collapse down in the bottom. Now, I will say in favor of Winthrop, there are a few more shutdowns to be had, so that does bode well. It's just so hard to kill the Lee Sin, who now has since upgraded his boots, so he'll be a little faster and a little more sorceress.
The only thing that does match damage is the Tempest. Goo, you must be having a lot of fun. I'm down to have fun with you because that kick does so much damage. He's already trying to kill everyone. 3 members are already falling down, Tanner. I mean, he is legendary. Sean is legendary. Like, they're just having fun at this point. At this point, you do whatever you want. Just have fun.
And so this is TBA taking a page out of that Winthrop book where they said coming into this one, we know TBA is strong. We're just going to try and have fun. And TBA says, okay, we can match fun with fun as Young. Not going to inch away. This could be a miracle play by Go again, but he gets sniped on the way out. The curtain call. Everybody in the audience was watching the failed play by Young mid, but did manage to get one. It is unfortunate. I think that was going to go on the highlight reel should Goo had been able to, I guess, bail him out there.
Yeah, we're just non-stop fighting this point, Tanner, because Cozy Shroud does activate the ultimate, but Sean does so much damage with those Mystic shots, man. They're honestly just flexing. And they did. We asked them to flex. They may have hurt us because they're definitely flexing. For sure, Goo, for sure, Sean. Cozy, the flexing grade, not too sure if it's a lot, honestly. You died a lot solo. Could have done better. Sean, if you go down right here, you may not be able to flex, but Goo's right here. You can land a gigantic kill.
Yeah, this could be huge. Lots of damage coming through. The shutdown actually going to find its way. Hey, Brog, he's going to find that one and will be able to walk away. It is going to be a 1-4-1 trade, though, as Clyde did go down. And Sean, we haven't been talking too much about this Ezreal, but so incredibly strong both this game and last. Now trying to kite away. Has the health, has the flash, is able to get out. Hey, Brog, you looking for another shutdown? There it is. It goes over to Doxa and TBA. They bit off a little more than they could chew. I don't think they're in trouble just yet, as Plux is probably going to go down here. Oh, no, stays alive.
Yeah, this is where, Tanner, we're just going to have fun and just grade how buff they are when they're flexing, all right? Goo lost his 1,000 gold bounty. I'm gonna give him like an A- right now. You know, Sean, he died twice. I'm gonna give him a B+. They could have gone S if they just went deathless, but you know, it's just a mistake on their end. If you guys are trying to get that S+ flex, you guys can't be playing like this. You guys got to go deathless. You got to nail a 5-man. If Goo manages to land a 5-man knockup with that ultimate, then I'll give him back that S. You know.
Yeah, and speaking of S's, I don't think Young is headed in any direction near that S rank in the flex. It's just been caught out time and time again. But here's some flex. It's Cozy Shroud just looking to end the game. And Goo is trying to stop the backs. Not going to be able to stop them just yet as this game lives a bit longer. We're 22 minutes in and it's really just been the kills. Obviously, the turrets matter as well, and you look at the CS deficit, but TBA really showed up here in game number 2. And I don't know if we're expecting this on the backside. Goo absolutely deletes the AD carry. Heveragi's able to get one back, but it's only the support. Now the HP bars are low for Clyde, and he will fall. Kenji, Heveragi, and Doxa need to try and find their way out, but some more skill expression on top of it all. The flash on top, he doesn't land the Q. That is unfortunate because we know Goo is trying to dab on Kenji here. As you see the Penguin, it's the matchup we talked about, the old dog and the young buck.
Look at Goo.
Goo's just playing with him. Ooh, nice dash. Saves him for now. Goo's not able to get the kill, but unfortunately, it should still be the game. Kenji, you got it done in the 1v1, but in a 5v5, unfortunately, not pulling away yet.
All right, Goo, your grade just dropped from an A- to a B+ now because you lost that 1-on-1, bro. All right, we got to take a look at this replay real quick because this is Goo when you have a lot of lethality. Just watch him. He Qs Staskio. He kicks him. And then he goes for the resonating strike here. And this is where Cozy Shroud does a really good Vanguard's Edge on 3 members as they try to collapse through. But, you know, Goo, you got to get in there. You want to flex. Get your blind butt in there. Kill all of them ASAP. Yeah. I like that Flash Tempest, but this is where the 1-on-1 occurs. But we have to go live real quick because it looks like they still want to.
Yeah, still looking to fight. This time it's Winthrop trying to take it to TBA. The damage comes through. Heveragi's able to find another. That's a huge kill in the Ezreal, and TBA might have been playing around too much. No, it is going to be Saskio over the Sleepy Trouble Puddle. No real danger as he is quite far away. Winthrop aren't giving up. They know that this is the elimination game here for this squad, and they're going to start the Baron.
You know, how ironic would it be if Winthrop, after all of these shenanigans from TBA, managed to win this game? But Goo, he doesn't want any side of it as he does take down one, but all the clubs are coming through from both sides.
And Cozy Shroud going golden should not amount to much. It's a double kill for Goo on the backside, though. He's just in the enemy jungle, and there's nobody to help. Sure, you get the shutdown on the Aurelia, but here comes Goo. And Goo not only challenger fast, but Lee Sin fast coming on in. Hits that Sonic Wave. Resonating strike to follow. Young Mid finds a kill, and Heveragi, it's all over for you, bud. He's trying to fight his way out. Pluck's gonna steal that one away. And again, it's another team fight going over to TBA.
I wonder what's happening in all chat right now. As, you know, I'm just like, all chat, like, are you guys gonna end or what? Okay. Are you guys gonna end the Nexus? I mean, we can keep on going and have some fun, but it's very clear that TBA is, you know, they're just kind of showing them who's boss. Maybe just letting their mentality chill as a gigantic Dragon Rage knocks everyone out. But that's a good shutdown, and you know, TBA, they're gonna be looking to close it out right now. They don't want to have any more fun anymore. It's the last stand for Winthrop, but everyone else is already falling down, and that's gonna be it. TBA takes the win.
The Nexus will fall. TBA will find their second win here in this series. And unfortunately, it was only a best of 3, which means Winthrop will go home. But I think everybody had a pretty good time doing it. I guess maybe one half of these squads, and us included. So +2 to that, having a good time on this one. The first game, close, Will. This one, not as much, and I think you get to see what happens when TBA are able to spread their wings and fly, and now they have to try and take it to the #1 team in Zenith Esports, I believe in the semifinals of this loser bracket. So I'm interested to see how that goes. Man, this was fun.
Yeah, hopefully that matchup becomes a little bit more serious. It was fun. I mean, we saw Goo build Sorcerer Shoes, which is you don't really see that often. We see him go Dustblade and a bunch of lethality in his build. You know, one-shotting people, kicking heads off for sure. I saw him kick Dox's head off, clean off. I see Saskio getting bodied on the backside. Of course, lose that one-on-one. But you know, Tanner, we got to go back to the flex grade. You know, because Cozy Shroud, you died a little bit too much by yourself, my man. I think that's a D, man. That's a D for you.
Yeah.
Goo, you know, you would have gotten that A, but you messed up that one-on-one. Disappointing in you. That's a B+, all right? Young, you died too much. That's enough, all right?
Yeah.
And keep in mind that I'm Asian. My grades are 100% correct, by the way. You don't mess with an Asian's grades. But an A is an average. Just let's be clear here. And
right.
With Sean, you know, Sean, I'm gonna give you an A-, all right? Saw stuff on you, a little bit of hiccups, but you definitely turn around some of those fights. And Plux, Plux is there. He gets the participation trophy because you can't really skill express on the Karma, unfortunately. So skill expression on you.
Yeah, and I mean, Pluck's already in the scouting ground, so didn't have a whole lot to prove where that rest of the squad was coming up. Now, unfortunately, Will, that does it for us here on the caster desk. We do want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening to our voices while we were able to bring you those games, and hopefully you had just as much fun as we did. But we are not done just yet. We are going to send it back over to that analyst desk to break down this series victory for TBA.
Tanner, and thank you, Wok. We definitely had as much fun as you guys did sitting watching the game in the background. I am here once again with Dylan and Beatdown, and holy cow, Goo is nuts. That was quite the performance from TBA. We saw some we saw some interesting plays, a little bit of grief, and we heard from Mr. XT, appropriate punishment will be given out.
It was one time. It was one.
It was one time.
XT will get the paddle.
Oh God. Well, like the paddle is what Winthrop just got. God damn.
Yeah, so let's talk about this, right? So a 2-0 from TBA, they win the best of 3. They're gonna move on to play Zenith, and we had a lot of fun watching. But on a really serious note, they look really, really good. Sure, there's moments where it's style and flash over actual execution, and we'll take a look at the stats here. I'll kick it to you, Beatdown, first. I mean, holy cow! If Goo's gonna play like this throughout the whole playoffs, they've got to be a favorite to come out of losers again.
And he's one of the players that we highlighted because when TBA is doing well, it's because Goo is doing well. And look at this guy go. Let's be real. They ego B1 Lee Sin, and Goo's just like, nah, pick it.
Insane.
And then he absolutely demolishes, gives the paddle to Winthrop. Look at that scoreline. At the end of the day, Sean gets the most damage, but the blowing up of squishies because of that lethality build. I know, Will, you were flaming it. I had questions too. It is not the way you normally do things, but how do you argue with Lee Sin kicking away half of Jin's HP whenever he's trying to curtain call? It was just ridiculous. Goo could not be stopped. We were actually starting to get to that point too, where Winthrop's composition was really starting to come out, was starting to find those picks, win that front to back, but nobody's watching their back because every time that happens, they get 1 or 2 kills, and then all of a sudden Goo gets a triple. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah, and I don't even know what you're supposed to do there. And Dylan, I mean, when you're seeing a team like TBA, other than crying, I don't know what you stopped them. So I think the spin on this, and you could take this one of 2 ways. Winthrop, obviously, they gave their all there. Things didn't quite go their way. But TBA, did they show you a lot tonight that would make you think they have a chance against Zenith and maybe ultimately to come out after losing to Illinois State?
I think so. I not quite sure I'd write them off as the favorite yet. I'd have to look more into the matchup specifically, but they definitely look good, right? And I think stylistically, the reason that this game seemed really one-sided, and honestly this series in general, with game 1 being also a pretty fast victory, is because these teams play the same kind of style with the same kind of champions, but they're just better players, right? Like when you have teams that match up like this, so similarly, it's usually going to end up like this, right? When you have teams that are explosive in the early game, like to make plays, like to have action, it's usually going to go to the team that either A, just has strictly the better draft, or B, if one team is just better than the other across the board in terms of their players, well, then usually they're going to take the series, right? So I think with Zenith next week and, moving forward, if they do beat Zenith, the thing that I want to see teams do against TBA is come in with a very disciplined strategy, right? You're not going to beat a team like this, punch for punch in the early game by outplaying them mechanically, right? It's just not going to happen. They have a scouting grounds player in Plux, multiple challenger players, just the best that amateur can offer basically in this roster. You're going to beat them through team play, right? These games are not clean, and their decisions, their macro choices are not perfect all the time, right? So you definitely can exploit them. And I'd love to see Zenith, I know that their coach was in here, but I'd love to see Zenith taking some notes on this series, kind of picking apart their weaknesses and coming with a style and a draft next week that can really exploit those.
Yeah, that's right. By no means are TBA infallible, but after picking a skill expression comp like they did today and really expressing themselves, for lack of better terms, it's definitely still a good look for them, especially because we talked about at the top of the show how these guys, they're looking to get drafted. Like you said, Dylan, the best and some of the best players amateur have to offer here on TBA. And I think if there were some really important people watching, I think they got to be at least a little bit impressed with the performance from all of TBA's players. So that's definitely got to look good for them. And I'm curious to see what kind of looks we'll get out of TBA for the rest of the tournament here. Because now, sure, you can skill check Winthrop all you want, but I believe they were the lowest seeded team going into playoffs. And now, as we get deeper into that losers bracket, closer towards the end of this playoffs, that's when you start facing the cream of the crop here. Is that going to work against the likes of Zenith or Illinois if they make it that far?
Right, absolutely. And so let's take a look at that bracket here now. So now we will have TBA does move on to play Zenith. That will still be a best of 3. And then the winner of that game would go on to play Illinois State University. So for TBA, that would be a revenge game. I might be misreading here actually. Maybe not. So then, but
if Zenith win, it would be one for them.
Oh, right. Excuse me. Yeah, it would be for Zenith. And so ultimately here, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with what you were saying, Dylan, there too. Like as great as the performance as it was and as stylistic as it can be, ultimately once you start breaking things down, it's like, well, you're gonna have to play like a damn near perfect game to ultimately beat whoever comes up next. Like we are, I had a teacher in high school that we are to the creme de la creme of the bracket here. And like, these skill checks and things aren't just going to be an easy ticket to victory. You're really going to have some substance and strategy behind it, especially if you get to that best of 5 stage where you have these opportunities after a game 1 or 2 to ban and tweak some of these things that maybe they wouldn't be prepared for. So definitely something for us to keep our eyes on. So as a reminder, so that will be our streamed game for next week. Will be a best of 3. Want to give shouts to everyone who helped make this evening possible. So behind the scenes, K-Tad, Sam, and Joe for production, observing, and everything else under the sun. Thank you guys for that. Tanner and Chilling Walk, you guys absolutely crushed it tonight. A duo that hasn't casted together this season, actually, because of casting rotations. So they did a great job on the spot filling in together. And then Dylan and Beatdown, a pleasure as always. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in tonight. You will see a handful of different faces next week, but then I believe we will be back the following week with grand finals. That's going to be already around the corner here shortly. Actually, geez, time's flying here, folks. So thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Have a great night.
Watch these two because they're looking to start a fight right now.
Yep, just like that, the damage is there. It's first blood for Goo getting on top early in this one. It's coming down as well. Young taking a little bit of damage here from the Oriana. Goo's going to toss that Sonic Wave back. Hey, Bragi just trying to get right into the fight, and Young might not have a way out. The safeguard is there, but so is the end of the line. That's going to be the end of the line for your Zoe, as on the bottom side, a kill will come through. It's a shutdown and a double kill for Kenji. It's 3 kills across the board, and a gold lead still for TBA.
Just let this turf fall and start freezing lanes and get more of that CS in, as Young taking another shotgun to the face and has to flash out.
What an outplay. The Ignite is on. Could it be enough? It is Young.
Dirt on hand. Pulling up the Iliadi against 5 Squishy members. So, maybe you'll be able to do a lot of damage, but Holy Shroud, you're going to be taking this dive, but it's going to be a one-on-one. No! You're a big shutdown going in here. This is good going with the team map, but Teleport's coming in on the bottom side.
Yeah, we dropped the rugby. We've just gone to bare knuckle brawling here as Cozy Shroud comes down, grabs a kill for himself. Plux is able to get away narrowly. Clyde, unfortunately, we cannot say the same. The deep water diver and Nautilus will go down. And
He might not be wanting to take this fight, but he does get to Sasuke.
yes, so much damage onto the enemy ADC, but he's going to get halted in his tracks. And it's Kenji with the damage in return. The dragon goes their way. Goo gets a kill, making it a second. And Sasuke might not be able to get out. That fourth shot absolutely tickles the Lee Sin. And the blind monk gets it done for a triple kill. The wall trying to take the fight right to Sir Kenji here is able to dodge out on the true shot barrage. And his support has since came on over. Clyde will go down. Flux will be the benefactor of that kill. And Sasuke, the flash forward to eat the root from the deadly flourish. And Jin has no way out. But the fight is not done yet. This is the best way to describe this game. It just keeps going. All roles are thrown out the window. And you just yell from the rooftops here as Heibaragi is trying now to get away. He thought he had some help from Kenji. And now Kenji, he finds himself another fight. It's in the enemy jungle, but he's taking the fight to Goo. No, Goo's gonna grab the kill, and it's the Duskblade paying off with the Umbral Glaive on top and the emote on the way out.
I want to give the only thing that does magic damage is the Tempest. Goo, you must be having a lot of fun. I'm down to have fun with you because that kick does so much damage. He's already trying to kill everyone. 3 members are already falling down, Tanner. I mean, he is legendary.
Obviously, the turrets matter as well, and you look at the CS deficit, but TBA really showed up here in game number 2. And I don't know if we're expecting this on the backside. Goo absolutely deletes the AD carry. Heibaragi is able to get one back, but it's only the support. Now the HP bars are low for Clyde, and he will fall. Kenji, Heibaragi, and Doxa need to try and find their way out, but some more skill expression on top of it all. The flash on top, he doesn't land the Q. That is unfortunate because we know Goo is trying to dab on Kenji here. As you see the Penguin, it's the matchup we talked about, the old dog and the young buck.
Look at Goo!
Goo's just playing with him. Ooh, nice dash. Saves him for now. Goo's not able to get the kill.
From TBA, he managed to win this game, but Goo, he doesn't want any side of it as he does take down one, but both the clubs are coming through from both sides.
And Cozy Shroud going golden should not amount to much. It's a double kill for Goo on the backside, though. He's just in the enemy jungle, and there's nobody to help. Sure, you get the shutdown on the Aurelia, but here comes Goo. And Goo not only challenger fast, but Lee Sin fast coming on in. Hits that sonic wave, resonating strike to follow. Young Mid finds the kill, and Heibaragi, it's all over for you, bud. He's trying to fight his way out. Plus,
boss, maybe just letting their mentality chill as a gigantic Dragon Rage knocks everyone out. But that's a good shutdown, and you know, TBA, they're going to be looking to close it out right now. They don't want to have any more fun anymore. It's the last stand for Winthrop, but everyone else is already falling down, and that's going to be it. TBA takes the win.